The crystalline halls of Station Harmony gleamed under artificial starlight as Ambassador Chen Wei adjusted her ceremonial sash. Around her, delegates from 47 species mingled in what the Galactic Council proudly called the greatest gathering for peace in known history. The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity's invitation had arrived with explicit instructions to come unarmed. They had complied, technically. "The Terran delegation brings greetings from Earth," Chen announced as she approached the central dais, where High Arbitrator Zephys waited. The towering Altarian's 4 arms gestured gracefully, his translator converting his musical tones into standard Galactic. "Welcome, humans. Your species' reputation for creativity precedes you." Chen smiled. Around the vast chamber, she could see the other delegates, the gas-dwelling Nebulon in their pressure suits, the crystalline Vorthon reflecting light. In prismatic cascades, the cybernetic mechanists with their clicking appendages, all of them watching humanity's first appearance at a galactic summit. "We're honored to participate in these peace proceedings," Chen replied, her words carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "Though I confess, some of your security protocols were interesting." Zephys's chromatic crest flickered. Amusement, Chen had learned. "Surely you understand our caution. Your species has a documented history of violence. The weapon scans were thorough, yes?" "Extremely thorough," Chen agreed. "Your scanners detected every metal fragment, every energy cell, every chemical compound that could possibly be weaponized. Most impressive technology." The Mechanist delegate, Prime Unit 7742, approached with mechanical precision. "Query: human satisfaction with accommodation protocols?" "Perfectly adequate," Chen said. The quarters were comfortable, the food synthesizers well-programmed. Though I was surprised you blocked our access to the station's manufacturing facilities. "Standard procedure," Zephys explained. "No delegation may access industrial systems. We learned that lesson after the Corvani incident 3 cycles ago." Chen nodded sympathetically. She'd read about that. An industrial accident that had left half the station's defensive grid mysteriously offline just before the Corvani launched their surprise attack on the Deltaran delegation. "Shall we begin the formal proceedings?" Zephys gestured toward the great amphitheater where representatives were taking their assigned positions. As they walked, Chen couldn't help but notice the subtle positioning. Humanity had been placed between the aggressive Thrakari and the notoriously paranoid Zarion Collective. A diplomatic test, or perhaps an attempt to keep Earth's representatives under close observation. The summit's first day proceeded predictably. Species after species rose to speak about territorial disputes, trade disagreements, and resource allocation conflicts. The humans listened politely, asked thoughtful questions, and offered reasonable suggestions. By evening, several delegates had approached Chen privately to express surprise at humanity's diplomatic approach. "Your reputation suggested more bellicose behavior," admitted Counselor Vex of the Hegemony. "Perhaps our reputation has been exaggerated," Chen replied with a diplomatic smile. The second day brought more substantial discussions. The Corvani raised concerns about aggressive expansion by newer species, a thinly veiled reference to humanity's rapid colonization efforts. The Altarians countered with complaints about primitive species disrupting established trade routes. Chen waited until the afternoon session to request the floor. "Honored delegates," she began, standing at the central podium. "I've listened to your concerns about humanity with great interest. Many of you seem to believe we're inherently violent, inherently dangerous, that we came here harboring hostile, Intentions. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Several species translators buzzed with increased activity. I want to address those concerns directly, Chen continued. It's true that humanity has engaged in warfare. It's true that we've been aggressive in our expansion. But what you may not understand is the context of those actions. She gestured to her aide, who activated a holographic display showing Earth's solar system. For millennia, humanity believed we were alone in the universe. Every conflict, every war, every territorial dispute was between ourselves. We had no concept of galactic civilization, no understanding of diplomatic protocols, no knowledge that our actions were being observed and judged by species we didn't even know existed. The display shifted to show humanity's first contact with the hegemony, a brief, disastrous encounter that had ended with human ships being destroyed for aggressive posturing. When we finally encountered galactic civilization, it was through violence. Not violence we initiated, but violence that was inflicted upon us for failing to follow protocols we'd never been taught. We learned quickly that in this galaxy, strength is the only language universally understood. Zephys rose from his position. This historical context is noted, Ambassador Chen, but it doesn't address current concerns about human expansion and militarization. Chen nodded. You're absolutely right, High Arbitrator, which brings me to why we're really here. The holographic display changed again, now showing detailed schematics of human ships, weapons systems, and defensive installations. A wave of alarms swept through the assembly. Several species security officers moved toward their communication stations. These are our current military capabilities, Chen announced calmly. As you can see, humanity has developed rather sophisticated defensive technologies, kinetic barriers, plasma weapons, fusion warheads, antimatter containment systems. The Mechanist delegate's voice crackled with electronic distortion. Threat assessment, critical. Human military advancement exceeds predicted parameters. Oh, these aren't our most advanced systems, Chen said casually. These are our civilian-grade, defensive installations. The chamber erupted in alarmed chatter. Translators worked overtime as species consulted frantically among themselves. Chen raised her hand for silence. The point I'm making, honored delegates, is this. You invited us to this peace summit because you're concerned about human aggression. You required us to come unarmed because you don't trust our intentions. But here's what you failed to understand about humanity. She paused, letting her words sink in. We don't need weapons to be dangerous. We don't need to bring armaments to be a threat. Do you know what humans brought to this station? Observers, engineers, technicians, people who've spent the last 3 days cataloging every system, every weakness, every possible failure point in your impregnable station. Zephys's crest had gone completely dark. You're threatening this assembly. Not threatening, Chen corrected gently. Educating. You see, humans don't just think about weapons in terms of guns and bombs. We think about weapons in terms of leverage, opportunity, and creative problem-solving. She gestured again, and the holographic display showed a detailed schematic of station harmony itself. Your artificial gravity is generated by rotating sections connected through a central hub. Your life support systems rely on atmospheric processors that can be overloaded by introducing certain chemical compounds. Your defensive shields require massive power generation that can be disrupted by cascading failures in your reactor coupling systems. The security officers were now openly reaching for their weapons, but Chen continued calmly. My engineer, Dr. Rodriguez, has identified 14 different ways to disable this station using nothing more than the materials in our quarters and the tools available in the public maintenance areas. My physicist, Professor Kim, has calculated the exact modifications needed to turn your food synthesizers into chemical weapons. And my cyber warfare specialist, Commander Jackson, has been having fascinating conversations with your station's artificial intelligence. Alarms began sounding throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed the assembly in red warning strobes. "You asked us to come unarmed," Chen said as chaos erupted around her. "So we came armed with something much more dangerous than weapons. We came armed with human ingenuity." As security forces rushed toward the human delegation, Chen activated her personal communicator. "All stations, this is Ambassador Chen. Execute Protocol 7. Throughout the station, lights went out. Gravity fluctuated wildly. The defensive. Grid powered down with a thunderous hum. In the sudden darkness, Chen's voice carried clearly through the chamber. "Now, shall we discuss peace terms?" When the emergency lighting finally activated, the human delegation stood calmly in the center of the amphitheater while security officers trained weapons on them from every direction. "High Arbitrator," Chen said politely, "I believe we've demonstrated that humanity doesn't need your permission to be dangerous. What we're offering you is something far more valuable. Our partnership. We can be your greatest allies, or we can be the problem that keeps you awake at night. The choice is yours." Zephys stared at her for a long moment, his forearms trembling slightly.